Hello guys and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll continue our discussion about strings. A string is an ordered sequence of characters. We can refer to any item in the sequence by using its index number. So, we have a concept of the first element of the string, the second element, the third element, and so on. This is also valid for other sequence types like lists. In Python, like also in other programming languages such as C, C++ or Java, we start indexing from number 0, not 1. This means that the first string element when counting from left to right has the index 0. The second element has its corresponding index 1. The third element index 2, and so on. Let's see an example. I create a string variable called movie, and now when I want to access a character from a specific index, I use the name of the string variable and the index number enclosed by square brackets. For example, movie of 0 returns t, because t has index 0. Then movie of index 1, of course, will return age, because age has index 1. When counting backwards from right to left, the first index will be -1. So I can have here movie of -1 and it will return R. This is when looking from right to left. Movie of -2 will be E and so on. Movie of -5 will be A. Now, what happens if we enter an invalid index? Let me show you what I mean with an example. I create another variable called name equals John. We can count visually that the string referenced by the name variable has 4 characters, with the last character at index 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3. And I'll access the character from index 4 or 10. What happens then? So name of, let's say 10. And the answer is, I've got an error, a string index out of range error. You should know that you can avoid such situations by using another built-in function, and that's the len function. It returns the number of characters in a string. So if you have a very long string, you find out what's the maximum index you can use by using this function. Let's try len of name. And it returned 4 because the name variable has 4 characters. Len of movie, and it returned 13. We have here 13 characters. Now that we know how a sequence, such as a string or a list, is indexed, we'll move further to basic string operations, which are concatenation and repetition. We use the plus sign to concatenate or join 2 or more strings in a new string, and the star operator to repeat a string. Let's create another variable called director equals Francis Ford Coppola. And now movie plus, this is the concatenation operator, and between single or double quotes, a space here was directed by another space plus director. And I've obtained a new string. The Godfather was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Of course, we can get that value in a new variable. Let's say movie1 equals and that expression. And now movie1 has this value. If we want to concatenate a string and a float or an integer, we'll get an error. We can only concatenate strings. Product notebook. And price equals 90.5. And now product plus price. So I want to concatenate and display notebook, colon, and the price. and I've got an error. I can only concatenate strings to strings, not to floats. This is a type error. We can solve this error by casting a float to a string. For that, I write str of price. Now I'm concatenating two strings. It didn't modify the price variable, it has just returned a string. So the content of the price variable is still a float. Now let's try a repetition. We use the star operator, so movie star 5. And it returned a new string. Of course, I can also have something like this, movie plus a space here, everything between parentheses, times 5. And I've got this value. So I've repeated this string 5 times. Let's try the last example. Let's say price equals input, and here price. And our price 6.7. And then price times 4. And this is the value. And this is not what we've expected. In fact, price is a variable that stores a string, and I've repeated this string 4 times. If I want to perform an arithmetic operation, I must cast the string value returned by the input function to a float. Something like this, float of price times 4. And this is the value I've expected. Thank you. That's all for the moment about string indexing and basic string operations.